Moving on, the ongoing spread of coronavirus has become one of the biggest threats to the global economy and financial markets. The virus, first detected in Chinese city of Wuhan last December, has infected nearly 4 million people globally. To contain the COVID-19, major countries of the world, including Nigeria, have locked down cities, restricted movements, and millions in suspended business operations. The moves that have slowed major economies across the world. From an economic perspective, the key issue is not just the number of cases of COVID-19, but the level of disruption of economies from containment measures. Head of Global Macro Research at Oxford Economics, Ben May, says widespread lockdowns could induce panic and weaken the global economy even more. Fears of the coronavirus impact on global economy have rocked market worldwide, plunging stock prices and bond yields. I have the Deputy Chief Financial Officer, TVC Communications, Victoria Ajayi. She joins me live in the studio to look at how to manage businesses during crises like this, such as the one we are witnessing. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Yes, we've seen what has happened. If it's called recession or depression, I don't know which to call it. But how do you think this is really affecting businesses directly?
Well, it's obvious that irrespective of the size of the business, irrespective of the sector or the location, all businesses have been hit, by the coronavirus pandemic. And it's even further worsened because of the drop in oil prices. Some have even called it the twin shocks. So you have the fall and the drop in oil prices, and then you have the coronavirus, the effect of the lockdowns, the effect of the quarantine, on a lot of states in Nigeria. So both of those have adversely affected a lot of businesses. And in so many ways, if you come to think of it, businesses are unable to actually meet demands of customers' orders. Some businesses have had to defer their product or service launches. Some businesses have had major disruption in terms of their supply chain. So there's been various ways in which businesses have been affected. But no one really has been left out of this. Almost all businesses have been affected by the lockdown. But there are different areas in which different businesses, fast-moving consumer goods may have been hit in a different way, manufacturing sector have been hit in a different way, but almost all have been affected.
So indeed, because some really allude to that fact that some are worse hits, particularly in focus, tourism, aviation, people mentioned all of that, yes, as absolutely. The moment still at the heart.
Absolutely. I mean, some are harder hit than the others.
Okay. And
the ones who people would know are the hardest hit will be the likes of aviation. I mean, borders and airports have been shut. So pilots are at home, they're not doing anything. We also have hospitality, hotels have been shut down, mainly because of the social distancing measures that have been put in place. So hospitality is hard hit as well. Entertainment, I mean, the billions of money that has gone down the drain in entertainment. I mean, think of it. There have been music concerts cancelled, cinemas are not open, art galleries are closed, lots of events that would have brought in a lot to the economy have been really hit. So all other areas have been affected. Yes, these are the hardest hit. And I'll give some examples of some other areas as well, because people fail to see that other business sectors are also affected. Take retail, for instance. People can't walk into the retail stores, the major retail stores anymore. Fast-moving consumer goods. Some of them have stock, inventory, that as soon as the lockdown happened, they have a risk of stock getting old, obsolescence of stock. So you have manufacturing, those who rely heavily on importation for parts, for raw materials, they've been affected because their supply chain has been affected. Construction. They couldn't go out to work, Let's even look at banks. Look at the effect on having to shut down a lot of banks in Nigeria. There's so many sectors that have been affected. Let's even bring it down to the small businesses.
Yeah, SMEs.
Businesses like a salon, people who earn from customers just walking in, having their hair done or whatever little service they offer. Employees who benefit from wages being paid by small businesses, consultancy services, and just general services, trades and services. So a lot of sectors have been hit. Even media. I won't forget media, because the ripple effect of all of this is all the sectors I've mentioned feed into media. One way or the other, the value chain, people advertise. Therefore, advertising revenue, if you're struggling with meeting your customer demands, would you consider advertising?
You're not going to think about that.
So people may think, oh, they're affected. Almost every sector has been affected by this.
I saw the minister saying waivers for broadcast. I was trying to read that yesterday, but I think they're trying to consider the media at this time.
Yes,
That's a good one. Let's now look at priorities for Nigerian businesses at this time. What do you think should be put first?
I would like to draw from some reports, key reports that I've read. And PwC Nigeria actually did a survey, and about 3,000 respondents, took this survey, ranging from managers to CEOs and business owners. And interestingly, 20% or just over 20% of the respondents said their topmost priority right now is cash flow. Now let's look at even a global view. ACCA, the most forward-thinking accountancy profession, which I belong to, also did a global survey.
Okay. Now,
40% of the respondents of that survey also named liquidity and cash flow as their topmost priority. Because it's the cash, it's the lifeblood of the business. They say cash is king. You have to run day-to-day activities of the business. So the topmost priority for a lot of businesses right now is cash flow, staying afloat, remaining a going concern.
Indeed.
The next thing on people's minds actually is employees. Aside staying afloat and all that, because you have to be open and you have to stay afloat to be able to pay salaries and wages. So employees are on the forefront of leaders' minds. Employee safety. It's not just employee safety, their mental and emotional well-being. Knowing that if we go back to work, are they safe? In terms of what measures have you put in place, or what measures are we putting in place to ensure once they're back to work, there's enough social distancing. So employees is the second thing most people are trying to prioritize right now. The next thing people are looking at is technology infrastructure.
True.
Now, you can't underestimate, what the benefit or the huge impact technology has made in our lives. I mean, people are beginning to, even those who were not tech savvy, at this time have been forced to be tech savvy with schools closing
Skype,
down.
Zoom,
absolutely.
and all of that.
That reminds me, with Zoom. I saw a report with Zoom, just talking about technology. Zoom in December 2019 had about 10 million users.
True, I read that too.
Fast forward to March, it just spiked and went to 200 million users. And then April, 300 million users. Now, would we say Zoom was prepared for the crisis? I don't think it was. I don't think it's going to be put down to them being prepared for the crisis. Same with the likes of Netflix. Would you say, oh, Netflix is okay at the moment because of the crisis, or because of them being prepared for the crisis? No. I think it's because their business model just happened to be technology driven. It happened to be more of digital. That's why they're faring through this time. They're able to fare well at this time. So really, technology infrastructure of having to, ensure you empower your employees to be able to work flexibly. Technology is not meant to replace employees. It's meant to augment them. So that's a major consideration. And I think the last consideration for a lot of large, fast-moving consumer goods and manufacturing firms is their supply chain. That has been hugely disrupted because of the closure of the airports, the seaports, the borders. A lot of materials people rely on for manufacturing, for the factories, the supplies have just been cut. So those are the issues people are having to grapple with right now in business.
So I'm looking at it's not really a good time for business leaders, CEOs, CMOs, and all of that. This will be a time where they have to put on their thinking caps and start to plan for their businesses. Now, moving on, what lessons would you say we'll take out of COVID-19? Some will say there's a systemic problem in Nigeria. There are a lot of issues. But what should be the takeout for businesses really at this time?
Right. There are a number of things businesses need to do. Some are already doing them, but just in case they're not, business leaders right now need to think people first. I didn't say money straight away because really you need the people to be alive. You need, health first. for the productivity and the profits to come, it's people. There's a saying, they say people first, productivity and profits come after. So business leaders need to be transparent. This is the time to come up with very clear communication to your employees, very clear communication to your stakeholders, because you have customers as well. I mean, the lockdown has been eased in Lagos, Ogun, and the FCT. And with this gradual easing, you need to clearly communicate to customers that it's actually safe. You know, you've put in safety measures. So not just your employees and ensuring they're safe at work, you need to start thinking about your stakeholders as well. Trust, building trust that, like, yes, that we've eased the lockdown, it's safe for you to purchase our services or our products, it's safe for you to, to do business with us. Another thing they need to look at very, very critically is establishing a crisis management team. I saw a survey, I think by EY, that said 79% of business leaders have confirmed that they're not crisis ready. They're actually not crisis ready. I mean, come to think of it, who prepares for a pandemic?
When they're still struggling to
exactly.
even survive.
Exactly. So this is the time for them to start thinking, you know what, we need to have a crisis management team on ground. And a crisis management team, not just for the now, but for the future. The reason I say that is because some people are calling this pandemic a war. Now, what happens during a war? Or if you're anticipating a war, you have soldiers ready. Just prepare. Although you are not praying for the war to happen, you are just prepared. Your soldiers are ready. Just in case it strikes, you know that you're going to move very fast. So it's about ensuring you put business continuity plans in place, crisis management plans in place that covers various areas, things like employee safety, things like legal issues, contracts, cyber security risks, various things that you need to look at in your business or crisis management plan. Another thing that businesses really need to do, and this is on liquidity, since they say liquidity and cash flow, and I know is very important, is we need to now start analyzing and stress test your financial models. A lot of us have plans for 2020, and a lot of that has gone down the drain now. Your assumptions would have changed, so we expect that CFOs, accountants, financial managers have gone back to the drawing board, to check different scenarios, really. Have a backup, of your budget deficit. Have, plans, stress test and check different scenarios, model different scenarios, just so that at least you're able to stay afloat as a business. Because as some businesses are still cautious in terms of resumption, even though the ease has been done. But as soon as there's full resumption, we don't expect people to start spending the way they've been spending, because a lot of people have seen salary cuts. So your spending habits will not be the same. There are various things that you now need to ensure you plan for. So revenues and profits, I saw another report which I was looking at. And in fact, the ACCA report specifically, so the global survey report that was done on the pandemic, mentioned that business leaders are saying that 25%, they're forecasting that 25% of their revenues and profits will not be met. So if already people are predicting a 25% dip in revenues and profit, that's a bit of an issue. So remodeling of your financial plans is very important. Another key thing businesses really need to do is to tap into the government interventions available. Wow. There are some interventions for certain sectors, like you mentioned, the one that they had released for media. Other sectors have theirs. Look at the ones that pertain to your sector. Get involved. Have a say. Talk to the industry leaders and the fiscal policy makers for your sector. And lastly, I would say business leaders need to begin to innovate. Like I said, it's not because of the crisis. Netflix and the rest of the, Zoom, and even bring it home here. Internet service providers here. It's business as usual for them, but they would have seen a spike, an upsurge in sales, because everyone's at home doing homeschooling. Everyone is relying on internet for work. So we need to now start thinking of how do we use technology better? How do we use digital in our business? These are the things businesses need to look at, because it was interesting how everything just suddenly changed. We talk about artificial intelligence, the future and all of that, and it suddenly came. It suddenly came to the extent that even WHO, used some form of, it's a chat bot they use, because I remember I used it where you send a question to the WHO and immediately get a response. That's a chat bot. So people are using and are becoming innovative. The UK Parliament immediately started a virtual parliament. You know, stock exchanges and stock exchange floors had to remain open, even though physical meetings were not there. So people need to begin to innovate in their businesses going forward.
I must thank you very much. Victoria Ajayi is a Deputy Chief Financial Officer, TVC Communications. Thank you very much for your time. It's good to see you on Business Nigeria
Thank
today.
you very much.